Nobody knew what burrata was in California. We're talking back in 97, 98. Even so in Italy, like I mentioned, north of Rome, nobody knew what burrata was. What happened was we started making the cheese and we started selling it to a few restaurants that we knew were on board. And Nancy Silverton was one of those chefs. And once she put it on her menu again and it really started to pick up speed, that's when a lot of the other chefs started to jump in on board and really started staying behind the product and seeing the difference between ours and the Italian-made one. In order to make a high-quality cheese, you have to start with a high-quality feed for the animal. So one of the decisions we made early on, and I think it was the most important one, was to work directly with the farmer. This ensured us not only where the milk was coming from, but we knew exactly what the cows were eating, how they were being treated. We're able to visit the cows daily if we like. It's only 15 minutes away from our plant, and it ensured that we got the freshest milk possible. So when the milk comes in at 2 a.m., the production team will first do the test of the milk inside the tank before we unload anything. And the tests we're running are for antibiotics, we're checking for fat, and we're checking for the acidity to make sure that the milk is fresh. Once we get those things accomplished, then we go ahead and we unload the milk into our silos. From our silos, the milk gets pasteurized. After it's pasteurized, it gets sent to the double O's. And from the double O's is where we start our acidification process, our heating, our coagulating, our cutting, and then the separation of the curds from the whey. The whey gets sent to be turned to ricotta, and the curds get sent to be turned into the burrata or the mozzarella. So once the curd is made and it's strained on the table, it gets sent to the curd elevator. In the curd elevator is where you could see it going up the chute and then getting sliced finely to go into the stretching machine. Once it's in the stretching machine, the temperature gets slowly brought up from around 65, 70, all the way up to 185. Once it reaches the ideal temp of 185, the salt is added, and then we allow it to stretch for approximately 1 to 2 minutes. From there, it's either sent off to be turned into burrata or the mozzarella side. So once the curd is properly stretched, it's brought to the stracciatella side where it's turned into those long sheets of mozzarella that we see being folded. Those are done again for the surface area. You want the cheese to cool down as fast and as consistently as possible. Once the cheese is cold, then we can start to rip it apart along those defined fault lines. They're able to rip much more easily because they've been basically stretched to do so. Once we have that, we add our cream, which is made in-house, and then we mix it to where we can add our salt, and that's the final blend for stracciatella. Once you have the stracciatella, the burrata process can start, and all that is the filling of the mozzarella shell that's very thin with the stracciatella and then being sealed and put into the water for the float test. For us, traceability is a huge thing because we want to know, not only for ourselves, we want our customers to know exactly what we do with our product, what goes into it, how it's made, how much of what is in each piece of cheese. So we can trace back the salt, what batches the salt went into, we can trace back the rennet, we can trace back almost everything to figuring out what went into that product.